Yeah. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome all of you to the December 7th, 2023 organizational meeting of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners. So we do this once a year, have an organizational meeting. But we're going to begin our meeting today with an invocation from Pastor Ben Marsh, First Alliance Church, and it will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Bessie. I'd like to please ask you to stand me if you are able. Stand if you're able.
Father God, we thank you for this season of Advent in which we are meeting today. And Lord, this first Sunday that we have celebrated of hope, that we would be a people, a community that is filled with hope. Lord God, we pray for wisdom for all of our elected leaders and public servants who are gathered here today to do the business set before them. And we ask that they would lean upon you for all clarity and unity and understanding, and that you would give that to them as you are the good giver of gifts. God, we do pray especially for the Atkins and the Winston-Salem State University communities, Lord, as they're gathering tomorrow to celebrate the lives of Kaylee and Alex. We pray for them to have hope even in the midst of a very difficult season. And Lord, we pray for the safety of all of our students gathered in our schools as we near this Christmas and holiday season. Lord, we recognize today as the beginning of Hanukkah. Lord, would we be a community that is not marked by anti-Semitism, Lord, but instead by unity and by hope and by love and above all by peace. Grant us your peace and your hope even today. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Marsh. Appreciate you being here. The first item on the agenda is the year-end review. And actually, I will do that. And I want to thank our county manager, Dudley Watts, for kind of collecting a few things that have happened through the year. And I must admit that I was really struck by the number of events and things that have occurred this year, activities. And of course, I'm going to read it as this is obviously the board acted on a lot of these things, but the heavy lifting and the planning was done by staff. So I want to take this time to begin this review by complimenting and thanking the staff of the county, from management, senior level, to all those others who have worked to implement all of these things this year. It has been quite a busy year, and I think you will agree with me, once you hear it. It was a busy year, but productive. In addition to our regular meetings for 2023, the board had several planning and information sessions, and we had a winter planning session. We have one every year in February, and it focused on economic development, particularly business and industry recruitment efforts and the provision of water and sewer to potential development sites. And I will say we were very fortunate to receive an appropriation from the General Assembly for $20 million to support sewer expansion in the southeastern portion of the county. During the year, the board also had 3 morning sessions held in April, August, and October. We actually have another one this month, focusing on education, public health, economic development, the use of drones and video surveillance by law enforcement, and capital construction. These special sessions augmented the opportunity for information and discussion that led to a lot of the things we dealt with this year. 2023 continued to be shaped by the challenges imposed during COVID and efforts to return to a new normal. Partner organizations that the county works with, our county departments, experienced many challenges that spurred important policy decisions for the county commissioners. And the first one I want to mention is that after a protracted negotiation with the Forsyth Humane Society, the county decided to reassume management of the animal shelter services. And on February 20th, we hired Kristen Briggs to be the new Animal Services Director, and the animal shelter reopened under county management on April 1st. This change has been well received by the community and operates at a lower cost than what was previously demanded by the Humane Society. In January, the board authorized the purchase of property on Liberty Street, adjacent to the Linville Center, right across the street and slightly down a little bit from the airport. This acquisition made it possible to share vehicle storage space with the school system, expand the Smith Reynolds Airport footprint, and clean up an area that had become pretty blighted over the years with absentee ownership. The demolition and improvements to this area are almost complete. I drove by the other day. It's a huge change. In March, the board approved the Fleet Services Garage Addition, which will provide space to service Winston-Salem Forsyth County vehicles that are not yellow school buses. This project will be completed in the spring, allowing the expansion of the Gardner Foods facility into the area formerly housing the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System's maintenance garage. In September, the board approved expanding the successful behavioral health program in the Law Enforcement Detention Center to include a women's unit. Throughout the year, the board worked with Sheriff Kimbrough to address the staffing and operational issues at the detention center, including a mid-year compensation adjustment, an enhanced night shift differential, as well as a return to permanent shifts. The board provided funding in anticipation of Medicaid expansion. This allowed the Department of Social Services to hire and train staff to be ready in the General Assembly if the General Assembly did approve the change, which they did in late November, and received state approval, and then it actually was implemented last Friday. Other operational changes implemented during the year included moving risk management functions under the direction of Human Resources, and then shifting our internal audit function to report to the board's audit committee. Due to the board's efforts to build support for local initiatives, our North Carolina lawmakers in the state budget once again included significant support for county projects. In addition to the $20 million appropriation for sewer expansion I mentioned earlier, the county received $5 million for the agricultural park in northern Forsyth County. It's actually just outside Tobaccoville, $4 million to support the Tanglewood Clubhouse, $250,000 to support Callidium, and $1 million to support Senior Services Cross-Generational Wellness Center. We're thankful to our entire local delegation and really appreciate the leadership that Representative Lambeth and Senator Kravick have provided in the leadership positions they have held. And all of us certainly wish this week's announcement from Senator Kravick that she will retire, and we wish her well. Two historic financial opportunities that generated significant policy attention this year included the approval of contracts for the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA projects, about a bunch of money, about $50 million, and developing spending plans for the $36 million in opioid settlement funds that will accrue over the next 18 years. In February, the board decided to bridge the long-term needs of the Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools by providing an additional $77 million to the school board for the capital needs and maximizing our board's authorization from the 26 bond referendum and our program 2/3 bond issuances. Over the last 12 months, there have been unique opportunities to strengthen the local economy. The county supported several economic development initiatives. In February, Zia Beg broke ground on a new $100 million production facilities and company headquarters. In March, the board provided incentives to Tex Tech Engineered Composites, LLC, to expand the manufacturing in Forsyth County, creating an additional tax base of $42 million and 59 new jobs. In August, the board approved incentives for the John Deere electrical powertrain project, consisting of 87 new jobs and capital investment of almost $70 million. September, the board approved incentives to support the expansion of Purple Crow Investments, LLC, creating 199 new jobs and more than $50 million in capital investment. Smith Reynolds Airport has been the focus of economic policy for the board in 2023, and those efforts have included completion of the actual construction and completion of 2 new large corporate hangar facilities. In June, the board awarded the contract for the terminal renovation, and work is underway. In November, the board received notice that grant funding was approved by the state for the Brushy Fork Creek drainage improvements, and the board approved an interlocal agreement with the city of Winston-Salem for financial participation in that project. Throughout the year, the board supported legislative efforts to make Smith Reynolds more competitive by mitigating the dual tax burden, city and county, for airplanes and other special properties parked at the airplanes, particularly parked there. And the state budget included a provision for the property tax exclusion that reduces the valuation by 50% for certain airport property. In April, the board amended the UDO, our Unified Development Ordinance standards, for pesticide, fertilizer, and other agricultural chemical manufacturing, explosives, and pyrotechnics manufacturing. Capital projects for the county consumed a large share of the board's policy focus in 2023, spurred by the infusion of state funds, grant opportunities, and other restricted funds, such as the opioid settlement funds. The board celebrated the move into the new courthouse next door in October. In February, the board authorized the purchase of property on Doral Drive for the agricultural park facility in Tobacconville, improving the entrance to the facility that is currently under design. In May, the board celebrated a groundbreaking on Blues Lake Park, 216 acres of shoreline made possible by $3 million in state funding. In June, the board approved the design services for the Highland Avenue Park project. In August, pickleball courts at Joni Mitchell Park were opened to an enthusiastic crowd, and they have been used pretty much every daylight hour since then. In November, the board awarded a contract for the 16-bed behavioral health crisis treatment facility sponsored by the state on Highland Avenue. And finally, construction began on the upfit of the public safety building to co-locate Forsyth County and City of Winston-Salem 911 centers and provide additional space for emergency management. Other important events, tragically in September, the community mourned the loss of Deputy Austin Smith Rudelhuber, who was mortally injured in a vehicle crash. And in May, the board recognized the accomplishments of the late EMS Medical Director, Dr. Lou Stringer. And just this week, I'm going to conclude as a kind of an important event. It was in the newspaper today. Both Winston-Salem and Forsyth County received, word from Senator Tillis' office that we will actually, Forsyth will be included in there's 7 rail passenger studies that are going on, part of the Infrastructure Act that was passed a couple years ago. And Commissioner Bestie's been pretty involved in that, and I thought I just might ask him to just highlight that particular rail study that's coming up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's one of the items that's so late breaking that we didn't have time to include it in the regular formal report. But as Chair Martin said, we have gotten word through Senator Tillis' office, which I anticipate is going to be officially confirmed by the North Carolina Department of Transportation tomorrow, that Winston-Salem and Forsyth have been selected for one of the 7 passenger rail service expansion studies that are each being funded by a $500,000 grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation. This is an application that the state had put in on behalf of the communities around the state who are looking to restore or improve passenger rail service to their community. Back in February and March, this board and other local governing boards were involved in endorsing the application for restoration of passenger rail service to Winston-Salem and Forsyth County to the Raleigh destination. And that would be the first passenger rail service, once it is restored, would be the first passenger rail service that we have seen in our community since 1970. Increasingly, the availability of passenger rail service to a community is something that national companies look for when they're deciding where to locate or expand operations. We haven't had it. The fact of this detailed planning study grant coming to our area through the North Carolina Department of Transportation's work keeps us in the hunt for that expansion, and the word that we get is getting one of the planning grants is an excellent indication of a strong prospect for eventually getting some operational funding. At the same time, Governor Tillis's office announced the 7 planning grants totaling $3 million. He also announced that North Carolina had received a $1 billion grant for actual implementation of a high-speed rail connection between Raleigh and mid-Virginia, aiming toward ultimately Richmond. So there's real money involved in actually putting these projects on the ground. I'd like to also thank staff, Kyle Haney, and people in his office, including Andrea Sheets, were instrumental in gathering the information and putting together the letters of support. And as always, the commission couldn't do its work without the support of staff. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Commissioner Bessie. And again, I'll thank our county manager for compiling a lot of putting that together for the year-end report. And I'd like to ask if there's any other, as he mentioned to me, there were a whole lot of things he left out. They were he tried to be kind of selective. And I know that sounded like a long list, and surely there couldn't be anything left out. But if there's any commissioner that would like to add or make any kind of comment, that I'd be appropriate to do at this time if anyone else would like to just say anything. Okay, we're good. It's my pleasure now turn the meeting over to the county manager for the election of chair.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the floor is open for the nominations of the person to serve as your chairman for the ensuing year.
Mr. Manager, I'd like to make a motion to elect Commissioner Martin for chair, and would do so by acclamation.
All right, very good. Could we accept that as closing nominations and make that appointment by acclamation? All right, very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Like sign opposed? All right, congratulations, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I said oppose.
You said opposed. Okay, so on a 6-1 vote, you will serve as our chair. You want me to go ahead and handle the vice chair as well?
Or
you can.
I'd be happy to do that part.
It's all
I mean, that'd be good. I'd certainly like to, I appreciate that. And it's now time to entertain motions for vice chair. And I'd like to make that first motion. I've actually known Gloria Wisenhunt, Commissioner Wisenhunt, since she was on the school board when I actually met her before I came here as superintendent of schools in 1994. So we're getting ready to come up on 30 years of actually working together in official capacities for 30 years. So it's been a great opportunity to do that, and I've thoroughly enjoyed serving with her this year. So I'm happy to make a motion for Gloria Wisenhunt to be vice chair. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. Are there any other nominations? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All righty. Motion
Thank you,
carries
Commissioner.
unanimously. All right. Next item on the agenda is a resolution adopting the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners meeting schedule for 2024. I want to thank our clerk, Ashley Sloot, for putting that together. It basically follows our same format. The only thing that's any different about it is that actually the meeting breaks are actually work better than normal. So thank you very much for that.
I move approval.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 I do have, you didn't ask for any question or discussion.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
wanted to-
Any discussion?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair Martin. I would like to first thank the hard work of our clerk, Ashley, for putting together our schedule for 2024. I do still continue to ask the commissioners to be considerate of those of us who work at this time and also that serve as commissioners, but also those of us who work in this community that cannot attend our meetings. I think that it would be ideal for there to be some consideration around the actual ability for most of us as citizens to attend our meeting, and as those of us who work as commissioners to not have to have the stress of trying to figure out our work schedule to come at this time at 2 p.m. So I hope that we can continue to work with staff to figure out a schedule that is truly representative of the majority of the citizens of Forsyth County.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to note that I think it's well taken that 2 p.m. in the afternoon is not convenient for all citizens, but I'd like to thank the commission for undertaking a number of evening input sessions this year and anticipate that it will be worthwhile continuing that in 2024.
Any other discussion?
Yes, I'd like to echo those sentiments as well. I think that we talked about, I've been on this board for about 5 years now, and we talked about at least quarterly having some afternoon meetings. So again, I'm repeating the same thing over. If we can give some consideration, I would be grateful. Thank you.
So as far as our motion and second for the regular meeting schedule, I'll just make that the regular meeting schedule. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
1 and opposed. Motion carries 6-1. All righty. The next item is a public hearing on the petition to close a portion of Morris Street in Walkertown. Shaylee Bowen, a Geographic Information Officer, is going to give us a brief overview of the request, and then we'll conduct the public hearing.
Afternoon. I think we are going to put a bow on this one today, so it's the last time we have to talk about it. Again, this is a petition to close just a portion of Morris Street. It was actually the parcel owner, Red Pill Partners LLC, that petitioned for this to be closed. As we spoke in previous meetings, a part of this is located in Forsyth County, and a portion is located in Walkertown city limits. Assuming that the board votes to have this closed, we will notify Walkertown of this so that they can close their portion as well. The signs have been posted since November 6th, and the request to close came because of a development, Harper's Landing. We spoke last time about there being townhouses that will be built in this location. Obviously, the public hearing date is today. Here is just an overview showing that Red Pill Partners owns both parcels on either side of Morris Street. Here is the portion, it's roughly about 450 feet that are within Forsyth County. And then here is actually where that is laid out in their plan. City County Planning Department had no objections to this being closed, and everything has been done up to this point that we're aware of. So with that, are there any questions?
Any questions for Shaylee? Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, and speakers will have up to 15 minutes in total to speak in favor of this request, up to 15 minutes total to speak in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the petition? I'll declare the public hearing closed and be happy to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Vice Chair Wizenhut. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Linville. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing on the zoning petition of Braxton and Charles LLC from RS9-S to AG zoning docket F1633. Kirk Erickson from Planning and Development Services is going to give a brief overview of the request.
Good afternoon, Chairman Martin and County Commissioners. This is a request for 3.4 acres located on the north side of Ogden School Road, west of Davis Ridge Road in southeast Forsyth County. It's a general use request from RS9S to agriculture. This is the county's legacy growth management map. The black dot towards the bottom right corner of the screen indicates this is in the suburban neighborhoods growth management area. This is a location map showing where the property is in relation to surrounding context. As you can see, it is surrounded by a lot of AG zoning, which is the requested district. This is an aerial image showing that the current nature of the area is large lot residential with some suburban development patterns mixed in. This is a view of the subject property with Ogden School Road looking towards the east. This image shows the subject property in Ogden School Road looking to the northwest. This is the subject property from Ogden School Road looking directly north. This is the property across Ogden School Road due south, and this shows a single-family suburban residential development that's currently under construction. And this map shows the area plan recommendations in the surrounding area. The highlighted site is shown for single-family residential development, as is the majority of the area. The magenta-colored area represents the Weldon mixed-use residential development within the town of Kernersville's jurisdiction. And in summary, the subject property's surrounding context is predominantly rural with some suburban characteristics. The request is generally consistent with the Legacy Plan and the Southeast Forsyth County Area Plan update, and the proposed district is compatible with adjacent zoning, and the request constitutes a downzoning of the property. The Planning Board did hold a hearing on this item at their October 12th meeting. There were no speakers in opposition, and following the hearing, the board did unanimously recommend this to the commissioners. I'm glad to answer any questions at this time.
Any questions for Eric? Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, and again, speakers will have up to 15 minutes total to speak in favor of the request and up to 15 minutes total to speak in opposition. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the petition?
Good afternoon, Chairman Martin, members of the board. My name's Greg Garrett. I was before you guys about 18 months ago with this project and got it zoned to the RS9 that it's currently in. Through that process, I got to know some of the adjacent property owners out there, and the reason, the real purpose behind this downzoning of what I just did 18 months ago is we've worked out a land swap, and he wanted it to go back to agricultural. And the land swap is going to facilitate us having connectivity over to the Weldon South development, which just is going to make a much better overall project with that connectivity happening. So that's the purpose for this request, and appreciate your favorable recommendation on this. Thank you.
Mr. Garrett, before you leave, do you mind stating your name and address for the record?
It's Greg Garrett, 6420 Hampton Knoll Road, Clemens, 27012. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the request? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the request? I declare the public hearing closed, and are we ready for a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that zoning map amendment F-1633 be approved on the basis of the following. The proposed general use zoning map amendment as petitioned by Braxton Charles LLC to rezone a 3.4 acre piece of property from RS9 special use to AG agriculture 40,000 square foot minimum foot lot is inconsistent with the recommendations of the Legacy Comprehensive Plan, but is reasonable and in the public interest because, number one, the subject property consists of undeveloped land located at 146 Ogden School Road and is surrounded by land zoned AG, RS15S, RS9S, with uses being single-family homes and undeveloped land. Number two, AG zoning is primarily intended to accommodate uses of an agriculture nature and non-farm, single-family, detached dwellings on large lots, and is intended for application in growth management areas 4 and 5. Number three, the subject property is located in growth management area 3, has access to public water, but not public sewer, and the proposed AG zoning would be similar to uses and zonings of some of the adjacent properties. Number four, the proposed AG zoning would be inconsistent with the Legacy Comprehensive Plan, which would call for more intense zoning in a suburban area. But the proposed rezoning is the same as some of the adjacent properties, would be consistent with the use of such adjacent properties, and the subject property was zoned AG until last year. And number five, the approval is deemed an amendment to the Legacy Comprehensive Plan. And that is a motion.
Second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is a resolution designating new review officers to review and certify maps and plats for Forsyth County in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 47-30.2. Eric can give us a briefing on that, please.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, we briefed this item the last couple of weeks, but as we do once or twice every year, in keeping with the North Carolina general statutes, you all are required to adopt resolutions designating who the authorized officers who are able to sign plats on the county's behalf for the subdivision of land. That's, again, something that we have to change periodically as staff members retire or folks get promoted into new roles, and this simply tidies that list up with the folks who are currently in all those municipal positions.
Any questions for Eric? Is there a motion? Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie,
Second.
second by Vice Chair Wizenhunt. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on the agenda is a proclamation recognizing the 100th anniversary of Delta Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. And we have, looks like a front row filled with members, fraternity members, Delta Sigma chapter. And Daniel Crudup, who is the president, is here to receive the proclamation. And Commissioner Daniel will read it. And I'd be happy to invite, all of you to come stand behind her. All of you can come. President next, he can receive it. And then we'll have an opportunity to take a picture when we're finished. So Commissioner McDaniel.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners, for allowing me to share in the proclamation recognizing the 100th anniversary of the Delta Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity. Whereas Phi Beta Sigma fraternity was founded on January the 9th, 1914, at Howard University in Washington, D.C., by 3 students, A. Langston Taylor, Leonard F. Morris, and Charles I. Brown, who sought to organize a Black Greek letter fraternity to exemplify the ideals of brotherhood, scholarship, and service. Whereas Winston-Salem's Delta Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity was chartered on December the 10th, 1923, by 5 professional men, Dr. William H. Bruce, Dr. Ashley L. Cromwell, Dr. Rufus S. Hairston, and Dr. John R. Henry, and Dr. Cisco Neely, who, after completion of such prestigious schools as Howard University School of Dentistry, Meharry Medical College, and Leonard School of Shaw University, started their practices in Columbia Heights section of the city. Whereas the members of the Delta Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity have worked to exhibit the fraternity's motto of culture for service and service for humanity by awarding scholarships, conducting cultural programming, sharing resources with community residents, holding events to support minority businesses, and more. Whereas Phi Beta Sigma Incorporated counts amongst its members outstanding men of significant accomplishments involved in academics, business, medicine, law, politics, athletics, and other professions. Whereas during its 109 years of existence, Phi Beta Sigma fraternity has focused on improving the global community through an innovative problem-solving and visionary service. Whereas on Saturday, December the 9th, 2023, the Delta Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated will host its Centennial Gala at the Benton Convention Center in downtown Winston-Salem. And whereas led by local president and North Carolina State Director-elect Daniel Cruther, the Delta Sigma chapter will welcome the fraternity's international president, the Honorable Chris V. Ray, J.D., Southeastern Regional Director Richard L. Boone, and North Carolina Director Kelly D. Woodley. along with other regional and state officers and members across the country and guests. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners does hereby congratulate members of the Delta Sigma chapter of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity for over 100 years of uplifting brotherhood, scholarship, and service in Forsyth County. And be it further proclaimed that the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners commends the Delta Sigma chapter and all members of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity for their contributions and achievements, and we wish all the Centennial Gala attendees an uplifting and memorable celebration proclaimed this 7th day of December 2023. Thank you, Chairman.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
I would like to just say, Chair Martin, that on behalf of our community, I want to thank you for your service of brotherhood in our community, which now celebrates a legacy of over 100 or right at 100 years. And the pillars of your fraternity are exceptional, and a model of course, brotherhood, scholarship, and service. And if you don't mind me saying that your outstanding jackets of royal blue and white are exceptionally pleasing to the eye. And as I was able to travel to South Carolina, Charleston last week, I learned a little history about the indigo plant that gives us blue. No one leaves their house without wearing blue in Charleston, South Carolina, in the Gullah Geechee community, because it wards off evil and it is a way to protect you. So congratulations again.
And if you guys can turn around for a picture, Todd Luck will be like to capture that. By the way, Commissioner Bessie would also like to make a particular comment to you all.
Gentlemen, I just wanted to personally congratulate you on your centennial. Thank you for your good work and service in our community. Thank you for extending the invitation to members of this commission and other boards to your centennial celebration. I regret that I will not personally be able to be there myself, but I hope that you'll have an opportunity to extend my welcome to Mayor Ray when he comes to share in your celebration, and I wish you a wonderful celebration of your centennial. Thank you.
Hear, hear. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the meeting of November 16th, 2023. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. County Manager, bring the agenda for you to present, please. Oh, actually, I guess we have, I'm missing, we also have our communications to the board and public session. Where is that? Never mind, it's on here. It's great. It's an opportunity for anyone from the public who would like to come forward. We also just, all we ask is that you introduce yourself and give us your name and address, and you have 3 minutes in which to speak, and I do have a timer to keep up with that. And do we have any cards?
Mr. Chairman, we do not have any calls or cards.
Okay, all righty. Very good. Then now we're ready.
Ready for me. All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, board members, staff, and guests. We do have some business items for consideration this afternoon. We have reviewed these in briefing sessions and hopefully have answered all the questions that are out there. We have a number of grant items to kick it off. Item 11 is a resolution authorizing an amendment to an agreement with the National Association of County and City Health Officials that supports overdose prevention strategies. You've got an associated amendment to the budget ordinance that appropriates $35,000. These additional funds really are above the amount in the original agreement that y'all approved on 10/31/22.
Very good. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 12 is a resolution authorizing execution of necessary documents to apply for and accept, if awarded, an adolescent parenting program grant from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, Women, Infant, and Community Wellness section. And this will essentially fund evidence-based programs to prevent adolescents' pregnancies to at-risk clients.
Is there a motion?
Move approval. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Motion, we have a co-motion from Vice Chair Wizenhunt and Commissioner McDaniel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Very good. Item 13 is a resolution authorizing submission of an application to the National Park Service to apply for and accept, if awarded, a grant for the renovation of the administration building at the historic Memorial Industrial School campus. The amount of the grant application is $750,000.
Is there a motion?
Vote to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner McDaniel. I'm happy to second that. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 14 is a resolution authorizing acceptance of a grant from the Winston-Salem Foundation Incorporated awarded to Forsyth County, North Carolina Cooperative Extension for improvements to the Arboretum at Tanglewood Park. They plan to use this $9,500 to hire certified arborists to take care of some of the trees there.
Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Linville. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Just have several budget and finance items. Item 15 is a resolution approving a revision to the 2023-2024 Juvenile Crime Prevention Council funding plan. This actually provides that revert or prevents from reversions, and so there are releases of $93,472. And I think that funded a number of programs, and you see them listed on the chart in the agenda item.
That's good. I appreciate the chart being sent out earlier during the week. That was very helpful, made it perfectly clear. A motion?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Vice Chair Wizenhunt.
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay. Item 16 is a very involved, I think it has items 16A through 16J, and they are essentially changes to capital the kind of the structure of capital improvement project funds, really with the goal to identify project savings, interest, and then align the allowable uses across all these projects. And so it was a fairly big process around making sure that all those projects or sort of maximize the opportunity to the community. And so the upshot of it is there are significant funds and suitable funds to finish the LEDC lock project, the Tanglewood Clubhouse, and at the end of it, essentially it provides some inflationary reserve of about $3.3 million. And so, and obviously that would, in order to use those dollars, that would come back to the board.
Do we have a motion?
I move approval.
Motion approved by Vice Chair Wizenhunt. Is there a second? Be happy to second that. Any discussion?
Briefly?
Yes.
I did have questions about this at our second briefing last week. Staff did have answers to the questions. And at this stage, I wouldn't want to stick it in an oar that would, inadvertently derail the whole project. So I'll vote for the motion, but I would strongly encourage, let's look for opportunities to value engineer earlier in the process on future projects. I'm concerned about, big projects eating up so much of our available PAYGO funds that we run out before we run out of urgent, project needs. Thank you.
Any other comments? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And while that sets aside dollars for the project, obviously to move forward with the projects, take separate board action. So we do have a number of contractual matters. The first two are those projects that I mentioned that would be possible with the action that you just took. Item 17 is a resolution awarding a contract for maximum security detention locks for the Forsyth County Detention Center to Cornerstone Detention Products Incorporated in the amount of $1,904,908.11. That was competitively bid. We are recommending the lower bidder. It was a limited field of folks who submitted bids for that. I think we had 6 or 7 that attended the pre-bid, so we thought we were going to get a few more bids than that. There was a question that came in from the community, and Darren Redfield actually responded to that. And so we actually submitted, and I actually responded back to the citizen that provided that. It was a good observation. The truth is, we really do like to see more bids come in, and you want to see them real close. And so when you've got a couple and there are outliers, that's a little bit of a concern. But it was within the estimate that we had gotten on the engineer estimate. So I feel like the project's doable with that amount of money. And I don't know if you got any questions about that. Damon, do you have any additional information?
Yeah, I felt like the fact that number 1 and 2 were close.
Right,
They
and
were very
Darren's
close.
here. Darren, you want to come up and you can kind of outline what you saw in that?
Thanks, Dudley. Commissioner Martin, Board of Commissioners. What we saw here was a substantial labor increase by Cook and Boardman, the local bidder. We had a difference of the low bidder, $755,000 in labor, and the local bidder, $1.5 million in labor. And we believe that's because they're hiring a subcontractor to come in and do the locks, because they're primarily a hardware supplier. So they're supplying the materials, bringing in a sub to do the work.
That's helpful. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We are eager to get that project moved forward, obviously, for obvious reasons. So, item 18 is a resolution authorizing execution of amendment to the contract with Samet Corporation of the guaranteed maximum price for the Tanglewood Clubhouse project. The GMP is $14,845,678. Approval of this would set aside $400,000 for construction contingency.
Move approval.
We have a motion to approve by Vice Chair Wizenhut.
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion?
Does this item move the clubhouse forward?
Yes, it would. This would allow us to go ahead and enter contract with Samet, and so this is really notice to proceed on this project.
Say the last line you said.
Yeah, so this, if y'all approve this is notice to proceed with Samet Construction for this project. So construction would get underway pretty doggone soon. This is kind of the last, this is it.
Further comments, there discussion. There was at least 2 meetings last week and the week before of questions, particularly about the cost. And I would just say, I thought maybe we would try to figure out a way to see if we could get the cost a little more in line with, or lessen what it is, to do whatever we could to improve the cost. Is the current clubhouse, is it to be taken down or left?
It is. Damon, you want to come up and talk a little bit about the project?
It will be demolished,
James
and
is
then
here
the
as
new
well.
building would go back in the location where the current facility is at.
Well, with that, I don't have any interest in whether you go forward or not of removing the old with the current building. Maybe I should have said something earlier, but I thought we were going to have more discussions. So I don't have no interest in that. So I'll do this to see if we can give ourselves a little time to have a little more discussion and see if it's anything any different that we might do. I'll make a substitute motion to continue this matter for 2 weeks to see if there's anything that we can find to improve the situation in regard to cost.
I would second the substitute motion with the intent to understand, and I'll have to admit my own lack of diligence on some of the checking on this, on the alternative of having the golf carts park in a different location versus under it. And I probably shared all along some of the concerns that Commissioner Linville said, and I think I would appreciate the indulgence to next week, for example, at our briefing, to simply look at that more carefully. And for those who are able to attend the department manager's luncheon out there next Friday, literally could easily just go hands-on, take a look at it if we wanted to, in addition to that. So I think I certainly support the 2-week delay. The money is available, but support the 2-week delay to take a look at that and understand that better.
Well, if it's 2 weeks, it's not going to hurt anything as far as to see if the board wishes to consider anything else, and if it does not, then the board can do what it will.
Substitute motion, do we have any discussion about that? Any concerns about that? Would you accept Commissioner Linville's?
Well, I don't intend to vote for Mr. Linville's motion. We've been talking about this for over 3 years. I'm amazed that folks right now have concerns when we've had so long to talk about it. And it's a project that I feel very strongly that will be an asset to not only the Tanglewood Golf Course, but to all of Forsyth County. So I will vote in opposition.
We'll vote on the substitute motion. Any other discussion on the substitute motion?
Just a question. Is the intent of the motion to look for efficiencies that could be amended on the 21st with the anticipation that we would have a final approval vote one way or another on that day?
If that's what the board wishes to do, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I think just a better understanding of the alternative that was actually vetted, which is probably about I don't remember the number, but it seems like it's about $1.3 million or so less, which is a different design decision. You lose some space underneath the clubhouse, it takes the parking to an off-site location, and that's why part of that, seeing it sort of helps you get a flavor of why it would or would not work. The recommendation was this was going to be operationally more difficult in the future, was the recommendation we received. And I think it's more, you asked a number of questions last week. We've had some discussion, that's 3 out of 7 that have had some concerns. And I think to understand it better and to understand exactly why the alternative of parking the golf carts in a separate location is probably worth a further explanation of that. And I agree particularly with Commissioner Linville, nothing's going to happen between now and the 21st. So any other discussion on the substitute motion? On favor, please say aye. Aye. Included aye, so we had 4 ayes. Of those opposed?
No.
Mr. Plyler, Commissioner Plyler, would you like to vote one way or the other? It's passes with 4 to accept the substitute motion, but would you like to be on record? He said aye. The substitute motion passes 5-2, and we'll discuss it again at the briefing next week. Those that want to see it physically can see it next Friday, and then we'll reconsider again on the 21st.
Okay, so we will actually add it to next week's agenda, and then we'll make sure we have a very comprehensive presentation of really the history of the project. I talked to Damon a little bit about it, and we can give you a lot of detail about both the options, and then, as I think to your point, if you're out there, if we can take time on Friday to go out there and actually drive over there to look at it, you can take a look at the current facility and some of the considerations there. And then I think one thing that we can make real clear is we actually were not, we never planned, the decision to move it to the location to basically raise the current building, take it down, and then put it there was really a financial decision. So we can actually talk through why we landed on taking that building down, because obviously if you could have built it adjacent to it, we wouldn't have the cost that's associated with the temporary clubhouse and so on and so forth. But we obviously want you to feel really great about this project as we move forward. So very good. Agenda item 19 is a resolution authorizing a lease agreement between the town of Kernersville and Forsyth County for the lease of property to operate a recycling center. This is a 2.5-year agreement and not to exceed $23,000 per year.
I'd like to make a different motion than what was recommended, and particularly there were actually two parts to this. One was to deal with fiscal year '24, which is actually just a remainder this year. I'd be happy to support the recommendation we received because it was closed for a period of time. It's a larger amount of money. There were some improvements made. Whatever the amount is for FY24, I'm fine with that as listed. However, for the future, after that, beginning July 1 in 2024, I'd like to suggest that we pay the lease be $1,500 a month, which would be $18,000 a year, which is less than the 23 that we were asked, and see if the town of Kernersville would be willing to accept that alternative. So it's really two parts. One is to approve the recommended FY24 contract, which are two contracts, and the second would be, I believe it's a 3-year contract for the next 3 years at $1,500 a month.
So is that a motion?
Yes, I'm making that motion.
I second.
Got a second from Vice Chair Wizenhut. Is there further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Agenda item 20 is a resolution to direct the expenditures of opioid settlement funds. You've got an associated budget ordinance amendment that appropriates $593,292, and there are 8 providers that would receive funding under that.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, but I would like to say that I hope in the future we can do more for EMS and their request. I just think the mobile integrated healthcare is very important, and but I will make a motion to approve.
A motion by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please say.
I do have
Yes.
some questions about some of the agencies that submitted proposals, and for instance, the rationale, I guess, or the column reads funding recommendation details. For instance, for the City of Winston-Salem, what was requested and then what was recommended, and then the detail is project request is similar to MIH's request, peer support specialist. What is the justification of no dollars based on what they're asking? I couldn't follow that rationale.
Yep. Thank you, Commissioner Woodbury. So for that particular project, it is for the City of Winston-Salem's BEAR team, which is somewhat similar to the work that our mobile integrated health team does. And so when we are looking at the opioid settlement dollars and was reviewing their application, our mobile integrated health was requesting 4 peer support specialists, and then the BEAR team was also requesting 4 peer support specialists. And so the evaluation committee opted to support the county's existing team. In addition, the City of Winston-Salem also receives opioid settlement funds that they could also utilize for their program.
So was there any consideration around both are necessary, or at least additional support on the city side in lieu of everywhere I turn, it seems to be the effects of this opioid piece of our community. So I agree that first we need to be mindful of what the county is supporting as it relates to our resources. But, you know, I will admit that I don't have the direct data, but just living in my community every day, it seems like all hands on deck, the more resources we have to support those in need due to this infestation of, drug effect would be beneficial. So I guess my direct question is, it didn't seem to us that additional support with the city could help resolve some of this drug effect going on in our community.
I don't disagree. I think the overall goal, I've had lots of conversations with my counterpart at the city on how we can better work together with these teams. And so I think more conversations need to occur. I think both teams are needed in terms of what we are seeing with mental health and substance use in the community. I think it's a larger discussion that could not be hashed out in the amount of time that we need to make a funding decision for opioids. But this will be reopened in February timeframe. So there is more funding available on the county side. And then certainly there's also funding on the city side. The other piece of, I'll stop there. There's more work to be done, and I see our attorney wants to say something.
I was just going to add to that. Counties are primarily responsible for addressing substance abuse issues, and Deputy Manager Robinson and her team are really starting up and ramping that up. But of course, we've had the EMS folks involved for many years in a very successful program. What we've seen across the state is a lot of cities have taken their opioid money and they've given it to the county because the counties already have these programs. So they've done that in Charlotte. They've done that in Cary and Raleigh, Gastonia. Winston-Salem has not chosen to do that, which they have every right to spend the money as they see fit. So they are spending money on this BEAR program. But as Deputy Manager said, we've had a strong program for a number of years, and that part of the money is being used to support them.
Could I ask, this is related, could I ask the question of, is the city accepting grants, the same kind of process that we're utilizing?
No, the city is using their funds primarily for the BEAR team. It is my understanding they are using their funds primarily for the BEAR team. I had reached out to the city because, as the county attorney stated, almost every other city that is receiving opioid funds is working with the county, and they've pulled their money together. I asked the city if they wanted to do that, just so that we could really, make collective impact and work together on the issue, and they opted not to do that.
Well, and if that's the only thing that they're funding, are you saying that they did not have sufficient funds to handle the request that their work, as well as the additional staff that they requested in their proposal to us?
They are saying they would like to expand their staff and need additional funds to do so.
They do not have sufficient funds from their opioid settlement allocation to cover the additional staff that they have asked us to cover?
They are saying they do not.
It's public information. I mean, that's kind of something that I guess. I'd be interested to see the data on that one, I guess.
I'll just point out that the way the settlement was structured, each county is required to hold a community session, and all municipalities are invited to participate. The municipality that receives money, such as Winston-Salem, is not required to hold a community session. So Winston-Salem, to my knowledge, has not held a community session, and in fact, they don't believe any of their representatives attended the community session that we held a couple months ago.
And the last thing I will add is that the BEAR team does mental health and substance use. They're primarily for mental health. And the way that the opioid settlement dollars work, they could not, let's say they could not fund their entire BEAR program, even if they had enough funds with opioid settlement funds, because it would not be in compliance with the opioid settlement memorandum of agreement, because their primary purpose is on the mental health side. So they are going to have to still expend some city dollars, which they are, for part of that program.
May I?
Yes, any further discussion?
My recollection is that the city authorized creation of the Bear Team, was it 2 years ago, or was it?
It's through ARPA dollars. They started in May of 2023.
Okay. Are they proposing to, or are they in fact applying their settlement funding to support the team as already staffed, or are they proposing to use the funds to add staff to their team?
The county funds is to add 4 peer support specialists to their team.
Are they proposing to use their funds to support the Bear Team as already constituted and staffed?
It is my understanding they are already using all of their current funds for their current staff, and they are also utilizing some city funds for their team.
All right, so they have not added staff with their settlement, opioid settlement funding dollars to the Bear Team.
They just started in May 2023, so it is the existing team. I believe it is a team of 7. Don't quote me on it. It's either 6 or 7.
But was it originally started with ARPA dollars?
It is.
Oh, it's funded by ARPA dollars and opioid dollars.
Yes, but keep in mind the city, the way in which, I'm not going to say this right, but the way in which they utilized their ARPA dollars, they rolled it into they claimed revenue loss. So it was through ARPA, but they're using city dollars to do it. But it is technically an ARPA fund. I'm probably not saying that right, but it was an ARPA.
They're taking the revenue loss dollars that they have now discretion on, and so they have used that discretion to fund part of the Bear Team.
Yeah, my understanding is they had, when the numbers all played out, they had enough revenue loss to be able to not have to go through any of the hoops around the ARPA dollars themselves. So they claimed revenue loss on all of it, which freed that money up to be used for all kinds of programs.
That is my understanding of how they have funded this program with city dollars.
Okay. And I'll just add that there is a really nice dashboard of local spending plans for opioid settlement money. And so that is updated statewide when counties and cities report what their plans are, how they're spending the opioid money. Forsyth County is listed on there, and it shows our strategies, which you of course are well aware of. Winston-Salem is not yet listed on there, so it's not officially listed how they're spending the money, but we have heard what Deputy Manager Robinson has reported. But
I got it. Any further discussion? Particularly Commissioner Woodbury, I think I interrupted your train of thought. Are you?
No, I had a few more questions based on this list that I see here.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I do also agree with the sentiments of our Vice Chair Wisenhunt that I would like to see, ideally more dollars to support Forsyth County EMS, since they are on the front lines of a lot of what's happening. And I guess, you all made the decision based on the budget narrative that they sent, and apparently you felt like a different amount would suffice based on the budget narrative that they submitted to you. But I would think that more dollars should go there, absolutely. The other agency I have question about is Miracles Outreach International, Inc. And it seemed like that the main reason why there was no dollars recommended, it says project timeline exceeds the funding period. Is that the rationale behind why they were not recommended?
There was a lot of challenges with this particular application. Our Behavioral Health Services Director, Denise Price, will be reaching out to them to provide some technical assistance so that she would be better prepared to reapply when we repost in February.
Oh, okay. So in general, feedback we'll be giving to the agencies that did not get a recommendation for dollars.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I would like to kind of get update on what that looks like, I think, because I can see folk in the community calling and asking, why didn't we or that organization versus others, blah, blah, blah. Then I guess the last one, or the last two that I have, the Teal Drops Inc. I thought that the bilingual component was very unique and seemed to me very proactive and relevant to accommodate all citizens in Forsyth County. Was there something just technically wrong with the application, and you're trying to provide additional, I guess, support for them to resubmit?
Yes, ma'am. So our Behavioral Health Services Director has had many conversations with the Executive Director of Teal Drops. We're very supportive of the work that she does. We will be, Ms. Price will be trying to facilitate a conversation with Teal Drops in the state so that we can ensure her next application is very much in compliance with opioid settlement memorandum of agreement. So some challenges with the application, but hopefully she'll be in a better position to resubmit in February.
In this it requires evidence-based programs, correct?
That is correct.
In the opioid settlement, and I'm familiar with Teal Drop, and I don't think they have met the requirements of what an evidence-based program would be, if I'm not mistaken.
She is working hard to try to prove that it is evidence-based. We certainly have some follow-up questions for that and need to connect with some technical assistance from the state as well.
Like a research project to do that.
Yes.
Okay, and maybe that, my last question was about the 20 Inc. I know that we have partnered with them on some other community-type projects, and I did not realize that they were interested in, submitting a proposal for this opioid. I didn't know they had the capacity for that, especially in light of evidence-based. And when I look at your recommendation, as it relates to what's going on with their proposal, it indicates the project includes engaging with individuals seen in Atrium and Novi emergency departments. However, hospital collaboration is not noted. And I didn't know if that was because they were remiss in noting that, or they just don't have a partnership with Atrium and Novant.
They currently do not have a partnership with the hospitals. I will say it is my understanding they do not have a partnership with the hospitals. Again, they requested $5 million. We had about a little over $1 million to expend. Their application also needed quite a bit of work to flesh out. Lots of technical assistance is going to be required. Now, we have worked with the 20 quite a bit and have a great working relationship and have utilized them with some of the work that we do, especially in the health department. It looks like they are trying to expand in doing something that they typically do not do, and so we need to have some conversations with them on what that looks like, if this is the realm that they really have the capacity to be in, or if we need to just continue the partnerships we already have, which they do a good job in.
Thank you. And we will reopen applications February the 1st, 2nd?
I don't have the exact date yet, but certainly we will make sure you all are aware when that occurs.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yes, Chairman, I just wanted to revisit a conversation that I had with Denise on our last meeting relative to the behavioral health dollars. Because some of these organizations did not fit into that category, that she was going to look into behavioral health and see how that she could assist them with that.
Absolutely. So when she reaches out to them to provide technical assistance, we will be rolling out application process for our behavioral health dollars at the same time as our opioid settlement dollars. And so we're always kind of looking for those cross connections. Some of these organizations receive both, some receive one or the other. It's a combination. And so what we will also do the next time we present to you all, we'll try to have a chart so that you also have a better idea of all of the funding streams from these organizations. So you're seeing opioid settlement. We could certainly add a column so you could see behavioral health, if there was ARPA dollars or some other ways that we are partnering with these organizations.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready for a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right. Agenda item 21 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between Forsyth County and Medic Staffing Solutions LLC to provide temporary employment services for clinical operations at Forsyth County Department of Public Health. This has temp positions, which are physician assistants and nurse practitioners, amount not to exceed $115,000.
Move approval.
Motion approved by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion?
I have to keep reminding myself that we're talking about medics here and not medics.
Right.
Which is the two.
Yes. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item 22 is a resolution authorizing a contract with Forsyth County Public Library and the Online Computer Library Center, OCLC, not to exceed $51,069.22. And this is the system that really runs the collection part of the the library system.
Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 23 is a resolution authorizing execution of a contract between Map Forsyth and Nearmap US Inc. for biannual vertical and annual oblique imagery, an amount not to exceed $57,595. Is a 3-year contract.
Is there a motion? Motion approved by Commissioner Bessie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 24, and perhaps take 25, they're both computer-related. Item 24 is a resolution approving purchase of computing endpoints. This is not to exceed $70,185.36, which is basically the back-end computing computers. And then item 25, which is a resolution approving the renewal of multi-factor authentication security subscription services. It was bid out. It's a 3-year bid, not to exceed $343,725 in total. And that is the system that is the security system, which prompts you to enter information that's submitted to you. And it's pretty essential these days in the cloud-based environment we operate in.
Is there a motion for items 24 and 25 together?
So moved.
A motion by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 26 is a resolution ratifying and authorizing execution of an interlocal agreement between Forsyth County and the City of Winston-Salem regarding the shared use of North Carolina Governor's Highway Safety Program Traffic Safety Project Grant Award for the continuation of Forsyth County DWI Joint Task Force. County match is $68,775.
Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Motion approved by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Linville. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Item 27 is a resolution approving refunds by the tax assessor and collector in the amount of $15,184.54. This is what bubbled up out of the North Carolina vehicle tax system.
Move to approve.
Motion approved by Commissioner Linville. Second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
And item 28, the Human Resources Report for fiscal year 2022-2023. And you will note that we are making some progress, particularly in the latter months, at filling these positions. It's good news.
Good.
Move approval.
All right. Motion to accept the reports by Vice Chair Wiznut, second by Commissioner Bessie. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
That is it, Mr. Chairman.
We are finished. We will adjourn and come back. Do we need, how many minutes before our briefing?
Yes, sir.
We need to take a little break. We will adjourn and we will reconvene in 10 minutes. Got a motion to adjourn? Make that motion. Commissioner Wiznut, Vice Chair, second it. We're adjourned for Good afternoon. We are returning to, we conduct a briefing session for December 7th, but this is the first briefing for our December 21st, 2023 meeting. And we have no discussion items for today. So we're ready to talk about the items. We'll just highlight the items that we will brief completely next week on the 14th, and then we'll have the meeting on the 21st.
Very good.
County Manager, here we go.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, we've got a fairly lengthy agenda for this last meeting of the calendar year. And so, this will round out what we take care of before we find ourselves in 2024. We do have a couple items that public hearing, and as is our practice, we'll go ahead and brief those in this first briefing. The first one is the public hearing pursuant to the general statute listed there on the proposed ordinance granting a non-emergency ambulance franchise within Forsyth County. I'll ask our Emergency Services Director, Joey Hunley, to come up and talk to this. This is the request that we tabled some time ago, really at a point where there were we were at a critical kind of staffing place kind of across the system, and so that has stabilized some. We still have staffing issues, and I think, but we have seen even the franchise agencies become a little more stable with that. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Hunley.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. As Mr. Watts mentioned, this is a tabled resolution from June. We had a briefing in May 25th meeting, and then this discussion June 1st, where we brought forth franchise agreement for MedEx. And so we'll be doing the same thing, presenting that MedEx still meets submitted an application. That application has been vetted and is completed, and we will be pushing forth that application as required per county code. We expect that the needs are still there to justify the application, and so that will be presented to you for the next meeting. I'll just stand by for any questions you may have.
Any questions for Joey?
I'll wait until next week.
All righty, good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Joey. All right, we do have one special resolution, and I'll just ask the county attorney to review. It's a resolution designating Forsyth County official to make recommendations to North Carolina Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission on ABC permit applications.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. This is an item which does not come before you very often. From time to time, as you know, the ABC board will approve a new permit for someone to have an ABC license. And the county does have the ability to object if the location or the person or business receiving the ABC license we believe would be objectionable for whatever reason. The statute, which is 18B-904, subsection F, allows this board to appoint Forsyth County person or employee to be someone who is designated to testify if there's a hearing about the suitability of a recipient of a potential ABC permit. In the past, it has been the chief deputy, Rocky Joyner, who I'm told is going to retire in February, and so this would just be to replace him with another member of the sheriff's office, Henry Gray. And it doesn't have to be a member of the sheriff's office, but that's what it's been recently. So that's what's before you.
Okay. Any questions on that? All right. I did want to pull out one other item that we wanted to fully brief today. It was the subject of a morning session item that we had really around the Axon Taser contract. If you remember that Sheriff's Business Officer Randy Hunsucker kind of reviewed that. And there were questions at the time, met with the sheriff and some of his key leadership. They felt very strongly about the desirability of moving this forward under an exception to the bidding laws because of the uniqueness of what Taser provides and their desire to kind of continue providing services. And that was, so if I will, It's item 15. It's a resolution approving the purchase of law enforcement body-worn cameras, in-vehicle cameras, and conducted energy weapons, I think taser, as well as other related equipment, material supplies, license, data storage, sharing, et cetera, and services under exception to the bidding laws, and to award this contract to Axon Enterprise Incorporated. I wanted to go ahead and brief it just because I knew there might be questions. There were questions that morning. Randy, you coming up to introduce it, or I'll have him come up and he can sort of guide the discussion on this. So.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members. I'm going to let Captain Petticord lead off, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Sammy Petticord. I'm captain with the Forsyth County Sheriff's Office. Just wanted to touch on a few things about Axon. I know there's some concerns about Axon, and I get that. I totally understand it. But the reality is there is no other company in this country that provides all three services, or actually four with the evidence storage that Axon provides. To throw in another statistic with them, 17,000 out of 18,000 law enforcement agencies in the country, Axon provides a product to 17,000 of those. That's almost 95% of the nation's law enforcement that they service. All the surrounding agencies, of course, they use Axon, whether it's body-worn cameras, the fleet vehicle cameras, tasers, evidence.com. We share all of our prosecution booklets when we have felony packets that need to go to the DA's office. We share that to them through evidence.com. That is a lot of man hours that save due to detectives having to run. You have like a homicide case. You may have 3-ring binders. You may have 3 or 4 of them of, documents, field notes, reports. And instead of having to run copies of that, they can just upload it one time as they do their case, send this all to the DA's office electronically. Saves a lot of time. If something needs to be shared to another agency, we do that as well. The live streaming feature that we got to use for a short amount of time with the Axon program that allows supervisors to monitor things in real time. Deputy goes out to a call, supervisor needs to watch it to see maybe it's what we call like a hot call or a critical call. They can watch that in real time, see if they need to send more resources, see if this is something that's going to, stem into a long-term call where an officer's going to have to be out there. Command staff can look at it, better deploy resources if needed. If it's something that's very critical and SWAT comes out, me being the SWAT team commander, I can look at this before I ever leave my house, live stream it, look and see what we have going on, and start making a plan then before I'm ever on the scene. And that saves a lot of time to be able to do that. K-9, when they're running a track for a suspect, it's a safety thing to be able to track them live when they're going on a track for a suspect. Usually they try to take a deputy with them to help cover them, to protect them. But sometimes, where they're going through, maybe the deputy can't keep up with the handler. So that's a safety thing. Also with the automatic license plate readers, notifies officers when a stolen vehicle that has been reported and entered into NCIC, it can actually read across 3 lanes of travel simultaneously at 140 miles an hour. I mean, that's a pretty high-tech system. But we have had some successful hits on that where we have recovered stolen vehicles off of that. I don't have the numbers on it, but I know that we have had several positive recoveries on it. Randy has all the figures on the costs, and I'm going to let him talk about that if nobody has any questions for me.
So on the cost, as a point of reference, this year, and we talked about this in October, the current year gross cost is $905,000. Axon has provided for us a quote for 5 years. So what we're proposing is to terminate the contract early. It expires in September of next year, but we're aware of that they're going to raise the prices at January 1st. And so what we're attempting to do is, since we have to re-up the contract anyway, we thought it was best to propose to you guys to do it early in order to save what Axon has told us will be $900,000 if we wait. And so we thought it prudent to approach you guys before the end of the year. The impact in next year's budget is actually zero. It actually will be a little bit of savings in next year's fiscal year budget. So it'll go down a little bit. In the fiscal year 25, 26, so that's 2 years out, it would increase a little over $300,000 gross. Some of that can be charged back to the municipalities in the school system, $1.2 million. But then it remains flat after that for the remaining of the term. I did learn recently that a couple other jurisdictions, law enforcement jurisdictions in North Carolina have done no-bid contracts with Axon recently. Those are Gaston County Sheriff's Office, Gastonia PD, Wilmington Police Department, Fayetteville Police Department, New Hanover County Sheriff's Office, Hickory PD, and the Cabarrus County Sheriff's Office. We've also looked at piggybacking off some contracts. We couldn't find anything recent. The most recent one is in Charlotte, and we discussed that in October. They did bid that out and awarded to Axon. All of the prices they have quoted us match or are less than Charlotte's. The second most recent is the University of Nebraska did an RFP in January 2022, which is also over 12 months old, so we can't piggyback off that. But again, they awarded it to Axon. They did have Digital Ally, Utility, and Panasonic bid on that, but they awarded it to Axon. But we can't piggyback off that either, even though the prices that we're quoting to you today are match or less than. And then there's Sourcewell, which is the state of Minnesota. They're a service cooperative. Axon was awarded that agreement in 2019 was when it was bid out. And again, the prices that we have here are less than or match what they have. So we feel confident about the prices. So that's the main things I can wanted to mention about the bundled solution as well. We clearly outlined in October there's no cost savings to switching to another provider. In fact, it would cost more and would be highly disruptive. There are a lot of hidden costs associated with switching. The time and cost to retrain officers on how to use the new platform, the cost to manage 4 to 5 terabytes of data ourselves. We provided information. We think it's $1 million in a one-time cost to maintain it and manage it with new IT personnel. Finding a new solution for sharing data with the other agencies and individuals that the captain mentioned. The cost to have a third party switch out all the in-car vehicle cameras will take many months. We think about 6 months, which will result in having 2 concurrent contracts during that transition and turnover. There's a cost of having to keep Evidence.com with Axon anyway, because we have tasers. The tasers are only provided by Axon, and the taser data only resides on Evidence.com. Axon also offers free replacements if it's lost, stolen, damaged. None of the competitors do that. And again, and I'll let the captain talk about this, it's absolutely essential to have the cameras and tasers that have the ability to communicate with each other. They can activate one another as to capture critical points of video data. Now I can probably mention that one, but that's the criticalness of having a bundled solution that only Axon provides.
What Randy was speaking about, if officer responds to a call and needs backup, several other officers come with him. If he has his body cam already activated, as the officers are getting close, it's automatically going to activate their fleet vehicle system and also their body cam. They don't have to remember to turn it on. So that way, if for some reason in the heat of the moment they forget to activate it, it's already activated for them. So you're getting a point of view of the entire incident. And if you think about it on this, if it's a serious use of force situation, having all of that is critical in an investigation to see if an officer is clear in his use of force or not. And that's a huge liability factor for the county and the sheriff's office to have that data and show, okay, we did our job and we did it properly.
Entertain a couple questions? I'm sure that the actual price is all in, like per unit. It's like per, body-worn camera, per vehicle camera, per taser, right? And I'm just looking at your cover sheet and pages. In numbers, the summary sheet on the first page. And I'm trying to get at, I understand the philosophy that every body-worn camera with the people that you've designated, I certainly don't begin to know enough about all the particular staff, but, and I can see whatever staff you think's got to have, it's got to have it. You might be able to, might argue with you on some, you probably would argue the other way, but the part about vehicles and tasers, because you don't have 160 vehicles at use at any one time, do you? I mean, this must be on a lot of vehicles that are basically spares and are not in use.
These are all frontline vehicles.
What?
With the exception of probably the school system, there's a few in-vehicle cameras for there, but otherwise they are used daily. We do not have shared vehicles, so every deputy officer has their own assigned vehicle. So these are 160 vehicles. They're not out on the street at any given time, but that is they're mostly frontline vehicles. There are no spares. There's no spares.
Wait a minute. There are no cameras in cars. I mean, you clearly have a spare fleet. I mean, you have spares. You have spare vehicles.
Yes.
You have spare vehicles.
There's no cameras in there.
And there are no cameras in spare vehicles.
Not one.
All right. So back to my original question. Do you have 160 people, cars that you say are used daily on a, I don't mean going from just point A to B and back and not. I mean, they're actually on patrol or being used where that's important.
At any given time, no. But it's not practical to remove the camera. They're mounted in there permanently with the ADL system, so they can't be just moved out and put in another car.
Well, clearly the wiring's permanent,
Right.
but it would seem to me the cameras themselves could be, you got a mount and you slide a camera in and out. Is that not conducive to that? Just curious.
I don't believe so. Because there's charging issues, and that the camera is assigned to the officer as well, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
and it's wired into the vehicle as well to power it.
Yeah, it's
Well, I know the power is. I'm just talking about the mount. The mount gets, everything's fixed and you get camera plugs in and it locks in, and then it kind of gets where you don't have to have as many cameras because they're interchangeable with wherever, if they're assigned to a person. I'm just trying to kind of picture that. And similarly, I'm really curious about 360 tasers. I'm sure you don't have 360 people carrying a taser, do you?
That's the number of people who are certified to use a taser. There's a lot of spares there, and a lot of the spares we have sent to the detention center. That's been one of the changes we've made recently. It's not an increase. We're just using a lot more spares we had to have available for detention officers now.
But you see
So
where
you'll
I'm
see-
going with this.
Yes.
You see where I'm going with this. It's a unit cost, and if there's a way to kind of, belt tighten on that and how they're assigned and used, I mean, you end up save a little here, you save a little long term with these contracts. I mean, this is just a massive, contract.
Dr. Martin, if I could touch on the camera of what you were saying about being able to take it out. I guess you're picturing an officer being able to take it out and then, and then the next officer get in that car and maybe minimize the numbers. What happens with that is on the back end, those cameras are actually issued. So somebody would have to go in every day and take that camera out to issue it to somebody else to reduce the cost. Does that make sense? Because it's assigned to them and goes to their evidence.com account when they upload it. So like if I'm driving a patrol car and I have a fleet camera in it, when I pull up to the sheriff's office, it will upload automatically wirelessly into evidence.com. I went in and I've classified all my recordings that are in there, whether it's vehicle stops or going to a domestic call, what have you, and it's all under my ID. So if another officer gets into my car, somebody on the back end would have to go in, an administrator has administrator rights to the system to change that specific camera to somebody else. If I think that may answer your question, son.
I hear you.
And to add on the tasers, not everyone has a tasers that wants tasers. We actually have a need for more tasers. They're only issued to sergeant level and below. So there, we do have an intense amount of pressure to add more tasers. There are those internally think we do not have enough for detention officers, particularly if we're fully staffed. So we feel it's very tight. We only are increasing it by, I think, a handful, really, compared to what we have now. Same thing with the in-vehicle cameras. There's an intense amount of pressure from some in the agency to add more there as well. A good example is the school system. We have 39 folks there, and we only have like a small handful of folks that have the in-vehicle cameras. They're badly needed there, but we try to make this so it was sellable to you guys because we understand the fact that, most of the time they're in the school, not in their cars, but they also do a lot of off-duty stuff, overtime things as well. If they see something en route to the school, they don't have if they make a stop on the way or leaving school, you would need a camera for that. So there's some justification for having them there, but we are not suggesting that here for you guys because we're trying to be sensitive to the numbers here. But there are many in the agency think that these numbers are really, we need a lot more.
But this may be an uneducated question, which probably many of mine are in this arena, but is it accurate to say that sort of as the technology developed, the first thing that happened was cameras in cars was probably first, historically?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're
and that was capturing wherever the car was and so forth. Then when body-worn cameras entered the scene, understand why, you get all kinds of other, obviously, of value, but does it make any sense? And think about it. You got an officer in the car, you got two cameras working. So I can make an argument that why is the car camera needed when you're wearing a body-worn camera?
Good question, sir. So originally, when we went to Axon with the body cameras, they were mounted either on a set of clear lens safety glasses, mounted to the side, or on a lapel. So what we found is if officers got in a foot chase, got in a tussle with a suspect trying to take him into custody, those cameras were getting knocked off. So Axon doesn't even make those anymore. What they did with their newest one, they call it the Body Worn 3. So it's a box about this big that clips on the center of the chest. So that's good being out, but when you're inside a vehicle, all you see is the steering wheel, unfortunately. If we still had the old ones that aren't made anymore that were mounted here, then you could do away with a fleet camera and be able to see what's going on. If you have a person you're stopping for suspicion of a DWI, or if it's a vehicle chase and we're wanting to see how the suspect was driving, if he threw anything out the window, evidence of a crime, how the officer's driving, because we review all of our pursuits based upon how the officers are driving to see if we need to change our training, policy, and what have you. So you're not going to capture that with the new body-worn camera anymore, because all you're going to see is the steering wheel and the hand moving.
So on the list, on your list, you've got two body-worn cameras on a bunch of people. What?
Yes, and the reason is because so the battery life may not last a whole shift. So what the officer will do as they're going through their shift, they're classifying each call, and then if the battery gets low, they'll go to the office, they'll dock that one, get the other one, put it on, and then go back out without having to waste time, upload, and sit there for hours waiting for it to upload or to charge up. And also, if it does last the shift, they dock it, they take the other one home with them and go as that one's uploading and charging. That's a standard thing with Axon.
Yeah. It seems like battery technology would get good enough that
you would think, but it's just like with drones.
Is there a way of communicating back? I mean, you're close, assuming, my conversation with the sheriff was, and this is true, I mean, this organization is as advanced technologically as any sheriff's department in the state of North Carolina. Is that fair?
Yes.
And that's true. I mean, you add this kind of technology on top of drone technology. So from a policy perspective to the board, that's where we've been, and this action would kind of keep us there. Now, I would hope, and I think the sheriff and Randy and Captain Petticourt, what I would have hoped happened, because I hated this 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, there really wasn't any competitor, and it was just aggravating. And you saw our cost of policing go up $1 million. You know, it shot through the roof. And what I was hoping is when we would get to this point that there actually would be a marketplace. We want a more robust marketplace, because sometimes whoever comes out after the person who cuts the edge on technology, you know, there's a lot of people backfill that, because I do think they're making excessive profits. And so I think the trick they've got now that's really been effective in bundling it really is the way they move data across all these devices and everything. So this action will keep us as technologically advanced as any law enforcement agency in the state of North Carolina. I mean, I think we need to go back to them and say, listen, if you're going to be that, why do I have to buy two? I mean, battery technology really has gotten better on some of this stuff, and so that might be a way of.
Yeah, we did discuss that, and it's not.
Yeah. Are all of them docked, or is there a way to in-car charge and stuff like that? I mean, that would be.
I don't know if there's a way to in-car charge it, but you would look at a cost of putting an in-car charger in every vehicle, and that would probably drive up the cost to what you have.
So when you dock it, it actually takes, when's the video transferred? When you dock it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
When
so
you dock it at the sheriff's office, they have docking stations on the first floor back in the patrol area.
Yeah.
And they come in, put them on there and go, and then some of the community policing offices, they have theirs out there as well, like Clemens. They'll go into Clemens' office, dock theirs there, and they'll upload as soon as they put it in.
The idea you got to buy two of these to keep one running doesn't feel right.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
Sorry, Dan.
Thanks. Just to make sure I understand the use of the vehicle-mounted cameras, that remains on during a stop. So if the officer's out of the car and is dealing with people in a vehicle, in addition to their body cam footage of what the officer's seeing, you also get a broader view of the whole transaction.
You're exactly right, sir. Exactly right. You're going to get a wider view, and then when the officer's up close talking to somebody, you're going to get that closer view of that one-on-one interaction with that vehicle.
So is there an efficiency problem with simply swapping the cameras out to other vehicles compared to leaving the camera that is in a vehicle in that vehicle at all times?
Yes, if to be able to take it out and put it into another vehicle, like if you had like a set number and we're going to share them, somebody would have to be on the back end every day that is switched, as soon as they're switched, to change it from one officer to the other. So somebody would have to be at home, on, the weekends doing it, and they would spend more time doing that than doing their regular job or, enjoying a day off. It's not practical at all to do that.
That was my gut impression, but I wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I guess I was just surprised that Clemens has some.
Yes.
They've increased that's the community policing side of things. And they need more than that.
Yeah, that's what they have asked for that for, if I'm not mistaken, for several years to be able to get some extra personnel.
Yeah, and they will pay their portion of this contract through the.
But so that 30 body-worn cameras in Clemens represents 2 per person?
Yes.
Oh, that's.
Yeah, that's what I.
This issue of 2 per, is that standard operating procedure everywhere? People have 2 cameras?
Yes, sir. It sure is.
When in fact you're just talking about a need to recharge and a battery. I mean, you're getting the entire camera setup, the optics and everything go with that, instead of just simply a charging device.
Yep. If you think about it, you go out on the scene and use it for several hours, or one major incident drains it off because it's recording for 3 or 4 hours, kills the battery. Well, now that officer has nothing to be able to. He may go to another call that he's involved in something serious, and because he don't have a second one to put on, it's not going to get recorded, and he's outside of our policy and procedure, but also doesn't have recorded what could have been recorded, and then the public's going to say, well, why didn't he have a body cam on? Well, the battery was dead. Well, how many people's likely going to understand that and believe that? They're going to think we're hiding something. So
I hear you. I just had to think about it.
I
I
totally understand.
I apologize for asking so many questions,
No.
but
I'm here to
the size of this, okay, just can't get my arms around it. There we go.
Understand.
Yeah, be back next Thursday, so we'll let you know
I
whatever
won't
questions.
belabor then. I'll just wait till you all come back next week, but it's better to be safe than sorry, particularly around when you look at what happens nationally when there is no camera to justify what has happened. So
Yes, ma'am. And I think I will, if I can just piggyback on that, and I don't know another way to word it, but it's either pay out now or pay way more later. So that's.
I'll probably get this when I read the document, but what you're proposing by this canceling early and starting over, understand the savings, this does not include the streaming, does it?
Yes, thank you. It includes the automatic license plate reading system. It includes the live streaming. It does not include the new TASER 10. We decided to pull that one. So it does include the ALPR, and it does include the live streaming.
So
Yes.
the live streaming cost how much?
It's approximately, current year price is about $75,000 annualized for a year for both the ALPR and $75,000 for the live streaming a year.
Maybe when you come back, distinguish between if you just went with the base, extending the base level of service that we have, and then, because you did it when we did it in that morning session, in my recollection, it was a couple $100,000. You could explain part of the increase, a couple $100,000, but maybe when you come back and do that. And get back to TASER and say, you know, I would be interested in what the new battery, when you buy a new body-worn camera unit, what the battery expectations of those are.
Sir, we just switched over to the body-worn 3, the BWC 3.
Yeah.
I believe it was earlier in the year or the latter part of last year, and that's the newest one out. So
And they
I
still
know
don't.
that- I don't know that battery technology has changed in that length of time. 'Cause if I'm not
Study
mistaken,
on that a
we were
little bit,
one of the
yeah.
first agencies to get the body-worn 3s, at least on the eastern part of the United States.
Yeah, well, they may be improving the camera technology and not the battery technology. And I guess the other question is, are the batteries in those units proprietary to TASER? Do you got to buy the battery units from TASER?
It's no replacement battery. It's an internal battery, and
That company has figured out how to lock you down better than anybody I have ever met in my life. It is absolutely.
well, they're on to something. If they got 95% of the market,
Well, that's because there's nothing else. I mean, they've been very effective at that. And that works in the short term. That is not a good long-term business strategy, I don't think. Because
somebody I'm sure will come along one day if they got enough money.
I am waiting for that day. That's a good day. Because, I mean, this is not none of this is rocket science anymore. This is all moving data around, you know, the cameras. Yeah, it's just, anyway.
We'll see you next week.
Thank y'all very much.
All right, thank you. I felt like that was the right thing to do, is go ahead and get this one out there, so I appreciate that, a little bit of time with that. I'll just very quickly run through the other items that we're working on trying to finalize for this agenda. You've got the routine budget ordinance amendment we do for Forsyth Tech Community College. You know, we always don't really finalize those adjustments to the 30-some-odd positions that are kind of essentially locally funded at the community college for the maintenance-type facility and so positions. So that's the budget amendment to do that. You've got an amendment to the school's capital project ordinance for Brunson's elementary school replacement project. We'll make sure we have some folks from the schools there. That is a very expensive project that will get a lot of scrutiny, I would imagine.
And can they bring some details, like how much they spent for design services, for example, you know, how much they spent on the site, you know, development they've already spent? I'm kind of curious about all the pieces of what that, not just the whatever it is, 3-4 million, what does that break down into?
Okay. what's been committed as of right now.
Environmental, consulting, work, et cetera, what that all looks like.
And my understanding from our meeting this week was that they've actually not bid it yet, so they're still, their project budget is a engineer estimate or cost estimate for construction, so they're not there yet, even though a lot of work's been done on that site, obviously.
So are they at a place to where they could sell this land and go somewhere else?
I'd probably defer to the chairman. He heard it better than I did. I don't,
Well, I don't, that's why we didn't have that. We didn't have what I just asked for the last time. The county manager and I actually had a meeting with some school staff, and that level of detail was not a part of it. And that particular question has not been entertained by the school staff at this point. And that's kind of what I'm kind of driving at and getting at.
Okay.
I will say, just add to Vice Chair Wizenhut's question, based on my time on the school board, there was a relentless search for land for Brunson, and Darrell and his team came back over and over, just nothing available. And then we went down the quote-unquote rabbit hole of on Patterson and it being a brownfield site, and the staff at Brunson came and were strong advocates of it going on that brownfield site, which is ultimately how we sort of reconcile, well, we would try to, look at putting the school there if everything worked out with the discovery of the brownfield site. So that's my recollection of why we have not tried to find additional or another site, because according to Darrell's team, there was just nothing available. Maybe that has changed now.
That'd be helpful. Thank you.
And if you think of anything else we need to ask them, just send me an email. I'll make sure and get that to them. Item 6, you've got a resolution around the project contingency for the Public Safety Center upfit. We are close to finishing that project out. The sheriff wanted an additional office. He was willing to use some of his budgeted money to pay for it, and so that's what this does. But it's a fairly small addition to that project. A couple of grant matters. We've for years been working on this Forsyth County Architectural Survey, and so we've got an update on the grant. That was partly grant funded. That's basically surveying all historical properties out in the Forsyth County proper area. The towns actually have participated in it, and obviously the Winston-Salem finished theirs a number of years ago, so we're still working on that. It's a multi-year project. You've got an application to the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency for urgent repair funding to move some work in community and economic development forward. Under contracts, you've got right many contracts trying to get finished up. You got an interlocal agreement with the North Carolina Department of Public Safety for mutual aid. That's actually the standard mutual aid, emergency management mutual aid agreement. You've got an agreement with the schools for medically fragile and special needs children. That's just pretty routine. You've got an amendment to Vanguard, professional staffing at DSS. It's a temp staffing, very kind of a specific temp staffing agreement. You've got a resolution between Forsyth County and the Resource Company, also for some temp staff in Department of Social Services. You've got an agreement to provide additional software license for the iReception application there in Social Services. You've got a truck that is that's actually one of the the 09 fire trucks that if you remember, they tried to push off a cost increase to us. I think this is the one coming back on that. Isn't that right, Damon? I think that's right. Yeah.
I'll need to look at that again. I don't know if that's the same vehicle.
Okay. I thought it was. We'll see. Then we got the Axon agreement we just talked about. You got 3 agreements for medication-assisted treatment and jail services, and so you'll learn a little bit about that. But that's for those behavioral health units in the detention center. You've got a lease agreement between Forsyth County and a company called WEAE LLC. As you know, Second Harvest Food Bank and the Trad Community Kitchen operated the Manor House for For a while, they came back to us and said that they did not want to continue that. We've actually done a lot of work, and Chris Wheel's done a great job at kind of pushing that out and found a company that's interested in picking up the Manor House for us. And so we're excited to bring that to you. You got the roof for the Bridges Juvenile Crisis and Assessment Center. That's the old youth detention facility we leased to the state for $1 to run an assessment center program there, and we're responsible for part of those facilities, and so this is us honoring that. Lease agreement with the town of Kernersville will likely come back, and Ashley predicted that, and so she put that on here. You've got an award contract for an on-site fleet-related inventory management service. Scott Angel and Kirby and Steve Brenniger have been working on a cost savings kind of approach around buying parts, and so I think this is pretty innovative, and if the schools kind of come into us with us, they would also benefit from this. You got a Ford Transit 350 van. It's actually a specialized kind of van to move inmates around. It's actually got separate places where you could actually move women and men in one unit and do that, which is actually a pretty significant cost savings kind of approach. You've got a contract with Overdrive for the Library Digital Consortium. We did bid out benefits and consulting services, and so we're going to bring you back a recommendation on that. And then the system that you let us move into a number of years ago for agenda management services, which really has proved a lifesaver. I'm not sure we could do what we do today. That is our external facing agenda as we publish and all that. That contract's coming due. You have a number of appointments that will be coming to you. Those probably close
They close on Monday, December 11th.
December 11th. So take a look at those, and if you know folks who would serve on that, that would be great. We always take action to extend the 2024 tax listing period to mid-February, which is something we can do, and that's important. And then you've got a couple of reports, but a lot of business items as we close out FY20 or calendar year 23. That's it. We do have, I think, somebody from Senator Tillis's office is going to be coming in around noontime next week.
And Ashley Perkinson.
Yeah, and so our legislative services staff person, Ashley Perkinson, she wanted to come up here before year end and actually get you to start thinking a little bit about legislative items for the short session, and so be thinking about that. But she'll be here, from 11 on into the meeting time, and so but she'd like to just sit down with you a moment and just chat and talk about any things that we need to push through on that. Ashley Perkinson, pardon me?
You mentioned two things.
Yeah, two things. The first one was
Senator Tillis and Ashley is Perkinson's separate. She's our lobbyist, and then.
Yeah. He's a staffer for Senator Tillis. He's fairly new, and he just wanted to meet you.
He is the regional staffer for our area.
I would like to take just a moment to say happy birthday to Commissioner Plow.
85 years young.
That's right.
Well, I hope you're as enthusiastic 15 years from now when I turn 100, so.
Will be.
Might not be around.
Who knows? But if I am,
All right. No further business. Stand adjourned.